raising awareness through every track. All-Star PD Sportscast on the rise, shouting loud, reaching the skies. Can't stop, won't stop, our game is strong, fighting Parkinson's all day long.
Welcome everyone back to another episode of All-Star PD Sportscast. I'm George, Sharon's son, together for Sharon.com, and my co-host, finally getting this right, Tim Lockhart, and you can find him at MYPDPARTY everywhere, really. Specifically, though, I love his Instagram and his all the work he's doing. But this show, we discuss the world of sports and slowing the progression of Parkinson's disease, and I do want to wish Tim and our beautiful guest, Andrew, a Happy New Year, and everyone listening. The show's now in the second year. It seems like it's longer just because it's so much fun. And we've been really able to have some incredible guests. So if anyone out there knows any professional athletes, sports athletes, or someone who is just doing some incredible things worldwide, or even just in your town to slow the progression and use sports to help you, please reach out to Tim or myself. I'm representing today a few organizations. I've been waiting, I told him like 6 months now to put this on, but we love PDM Alliance. Thanks for the hat. And I had the honor, before we get into the show, to have actually finally, for the first time, participated in Run Disney with Team Fox. And I tell you, there's nothing like getting up at 2 a.m. to run the 5K, and it was freezing. Like you think Florida, it wasn't South Florida, but Florida, Orlando, Disney, you think just, you need shorts. Well, next time I'll have a thermal underwear on because it was so cold. But it was honestly one of the best experiences I've ever had. Not just because I was there and running in memory of my mother, everyone who we've unfortunately lost due to Parkinson's, but more importantly, really those battling today in your families, like Tim and our guest today, Andrew. But uh, being able to meet other members of Team Fox, hear their stories, even though it was kind of short, and it was just something I'll never forget. So I do recommend everyone out there to contact Team Fox. Hopefully you can get a spot. When I was doing it, I wasn't sure I'd be able to make it just due to work, but I think my wife and my daughter might join me next year. But we're going to try the 10K, which hopefully I'll be able to last and make it back to the show next year. But that's for the future. I want to throw the show, as always, to my beautiful brother in advocacy, Tim, to just say a few moments and a few words. And again, it's an honor to be back with you, Tim.
Guys, what a shaking happy 2026. I can't believe another calendar year is in the books. Listen, every month we flip, every year we flip. It's just another reminder that we're not cured yet, and there's another year ahead of us of advocating. So I'm very excited about this show. Listen, normally I'm kind of ensconced into the whole production of this, but I got to tell you, everybody comes on with good information, and that's why we do this. I have a lot of questions for this man because I feel like he can help me personally. So I'm really excited for this show. George, cold for you is not 65 degrees, but I'm in Jersey. It was probably 15 today. So,
well, I'm glad we're all inside the gym today, and that's all that matters. And it's not just a topic, but it's inspiring to have our first guest of the year. And I just want to welcome Andrew to the show. He's someone who actually, I have to be always honest, I consider family and a friend. So it's not a guest who I didn't have the opportunity to get to know. We've done a lot together, even virtually, and he has really donated his time, his effort to a book we all put together. Where if you do go to togetherforsharon.com and purchase the sports and exercise, all donations will send to Andrew today and always. And that was just an opportunity I had that I really cherish, and just what an honor to have you with us finally to catch up, and just wanted to share your inspiring journey too. Welcome to the show, Andrew.
Absolutely. Thank you for so much for having me here, guys. It's been quite the journey, personally and professionally, actually. But, I'm really excited to be here on the podcast to share what knowledge that I've accumulated over the years. And I don't think that there was any accident that I got a diagnosis of Parkinson's in November 2024. I know that God basically, I don't know if you're a person of faith or belief, but I am. I know that God gives you things to deal with in your life that you need to learn and overcome so that you can help others. So whether we attribute to God or the universe or whatever your faith walk might be, I know that for me personally, that gives me a sense of peace, knowing that I'm not just dealing with a problem that can't help other people with, but instead rather the opposite. I know I can help other people with it. So I'm very excited about that. Tim, were you referencing our conversation today about maybe potentially we may be able to help you with what you're dealing with too?
yeah, I got to tell you, I mean, You're talking about faith. I'm all excited now, man.
Yeah.
As a Parkinson's sufferer, I'm kind of excited to hear about some of the things that maybe that you're involved in that a lot of other people don't really think about, like chiropractic and high
Correct.
intensity workouts. And we're going to get into that. I'm so excited because I think you're going to give me a ton of information that's going to be very useful.
I hope so. I hope I don't let you down.
You will not, sir.
One thing
Fantastic. Well,
that, sure, go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, I might as well start off with a little bit of my background. I graduated from chiropractic college in 2010. So I've been in practice for about 15, going on 16 years. And I had a lot of my experience with weightlifting, powerlifting, bodybuilding, and CrossFit is before I got the diagnosis. But there was a good 4 years that I was struggling with symptoms that I couldn't explain. I didn't understand why my arm was moving slower on the right side, why I was shuffling with my gait, why my handwriting was poor. And I didn't have an explanation. And when I went through the doctor, the rabbit hole that we all go through with Parkinson's, especially younger people, because what's the first thing they tell us is you're too young to have Parkinson's. They rule that one out right off the bat just because of your age. And it's like you got to go through all these hoops before you come back to that same thing. So I mean, my background and my education led me to believe that when my handwriting was poor and I was fumbling with my keys to get into my office, that I was dealing with something that looked to me like Parkinson's. And so when I mentioned it to all of my colleagues and other doctors, they were just like, no, it's not that. It's something else. So my exploration led me to an MRI of the brain. Nothing was on positive on the MRI. Then I did an MRI of my cervical spine, and I did have a disc bulge, and they said it was, even though it was mild, it was grazing on the spinal cord. So they said that must be the reason why you're dealing with the problems that you're dealing with. And with my weightlifting background and history, it made sense why I might have sustained an injury to my neck at some point in time, and I didn't realize that it was putting pressure on my spinal cord. So obviously, I went down that rabbit hole for about 8 months. Conservative management, non-surgical spinal decompression therapy, chiropractic, basically everything that I knew was good for conservative management of this condition. I was doing functional neurology. I did E-stim, shockwave therapy, you name it, pulse electromagnetic therapy, and none of it was producing any benefit. Obviously, because I was dealing with a diagnosis that was not a cervical spinal issue. It was Parkinson's. So, but it wasn't until November of 2024 that I got that diagnosis, and it was the brain scan, DAT scan. It's a nuclear medicine test, and so I understand why they don't do it right out the gates, because you're being exposed to radioactive thyroid. And when they did that scan, all my numbers were in the negative. So that's when we knew, hey, you're looking at a diagnosis of Parkinson's disease. And that's when everything changed. But interestingly, though, that when I got that diagnosis, I was not thwarted. Instead, I was empowered, and I actually felt vindicated. Like I felt like finally they understood something about me that I was in the dark and I was clueless about for years before that. And it was like it was my chance now to turn this around. And instead of going into my workouts defeated, I felt more empowered. I felt like I finally know what's wrong with me now. I can deal with this, and we can move forward. So that's sort of what inspired me to, I would say another God thing in my life of a very of divine nature was how I met George. I was considering whether or not I wanted to go public with my story, if I wanted to, share what was going on with me personally to the world. And when it came, I felt it was impressed upon my heart to do something with this because I knew I needed to help people, but I didn't know how. And the moment that it was almost serendipitous. The moment that I decided that I was going to make a difference and I was going to go public with this, George popped up on Facebook, and he was looking for co-authors for this book. And I said, wow, this is amazing. If this isn't a word from God, that, hey, it's like the door of opportunity just swung wide open because I had an opportunity now to share my story. And all I needed to be was open to it.
Well,
And
Andrew, you just touched upon something. Faith, I'm a big person of faith. And I firmly believe that I was given this for, like you said, a higher power gave me this for another reason. To maybe help make the world a better place, to help somebody maybe who couldn't put it on their shoulders. There's a reason for it. I'm not questioning it. I'm just trying to help. But what I will tell you is, even before Parkinson's, I noticed that when I would go to the gym, I would feel good about myself. Like I suffered from anxiety a little bit and stress. And long before my Parkinson's diagnosis, when I would really get back into the gym and do the weights, I guess mentally it just made me feel a little bit invincible. So, I mean, do you, I'm sure that had to have helped you as far as any kind of
Yes.
lagging depression time you had after you.
Oh, absolutely. Well, something I didn't share with you guys is that during the process of my testing before the DAT scan, they did muscle testing, the EMG, I guess the needle EMG
Yeah.
tests. And the doctor that I saw at that moment in time said, I'm going to give you something that I think that might be what you're dealing with. And she came up with the diagnosis of corticobasal syndrome, which is a far worse diagnosis than young onset Parkinson's or atypical Parkinson's, just in and of itself, because they say that the lifespan of that diagnosis is on average about 6 years. Well, at the time when I got my diagnosis, I was already four years into it, and having symptoms at least. And yeah, I would even argue even before that, because I had GI problems that were unexplained. I had facial palsy on the right side of my face that was really unexplained too. So it just, I kind of ruled that out as not being a possibility because I've already kind of surpassed the period of time that they would consider like the average mortality rate for that diagnosis. But I kind of feel like to your point, feeling invincible with your workouts because I'd been so active and I'd stayed so active and I worked so hard at keeping my strength up and breaking through boundaries. Even if I think I do have that diagnosis, and I really don't know because they say it's so hard to diagnose. But you said because most of my symptoms are predominantly on the right side, and I still have a high degree of function of the left, although it has transferred now into my left arm and leg. And it's showing up in other ways, like with speech, with cognition, memory, that sort of stuff too. Um, I feel like I've been really good at resisting the progression, and that's been really helpful because I do notice a difference when I do work out. Obviously, there's that temporary downtime where you're sore or you feel like the workout kind of puts you out for a bit, but then there's a resurgence to that too. And that resurgence comes for me with consistency. The fact that I've literally put it on my calendar what day I'm going to work out what muscle groups, and I stick and I adhere to that. Not only that, but I also wrote in the book about CrossFit, and everything that I wrote in the book was sort of very preliminary. I had to start somewhere basic to help people who are unfamiliar with the territory. So I apologize if it was too rudimentary. But the overall premise of exercise is just get your body moving, get your heart rate up. And I think that the exercise that does the greatest benefit at resisting the progression of Parkinson's is high intensity. So getting that heart rate in the higher zones, and CrossFit does a great job of that. You'll also find with heavier lifting, your heart rate is going to get escalated too, but it's not sustained at a high heart rate for a very long period of time. So I still think that there's a huge benefit to that too. And I've noticed that I've been able to break through certain boundaries even after my diagnosis, getting stronger with it, like moves like the deadlift and the
Yeah.
squat and bench press. So I know that
One,
there's a lot of hope for people with Parkinson's.
one area that I really advocate today and why I continue to, unfortunately, I can't bring my mother back, but I always look in a way, on days I might feel like I'm not going to do it anymore. I see and look for people who are not just inspire me personally, but also do such unique things. And I've never seen anyone else in the industry doing bodybuilding and CrossFit and a lot of things that you're doing. How can someone sitting there right now listening who want to, slow the progression of Parkinson's, but kind of intimidated at the gym? I was a personal trainer when I was younger. Now I don't have my
Mhm.
own little gym, so I like being alone in the gym and watching all
Yeah.
the Laker games. But it's not always, some place where if my mother always she had her own little gym in her house too because she feared a lot of the
Mhm.
symptoms and people seeing her. But what can you tell someone right now listening in our beautiful community around the world that wants to try the gym, want to try weights, but kind of might, not sure where to start?
That's a great question. And one thing that I've always hung my hat on, they say that it's a hill that I'll die on every day, is the body is incredibly good at adapting to small changes done consistently over time. That's it. It's no more complicated than that. It doesn't need to be more complicated than that. If somebody is wanting and having a desire to start somewhere and they're not sure where to start anywhere and start really simple and give your body a time to rest and recuperate from the workout and then go at it again with a slightly greater pace, either greater speed if that's the goal, or greater weight. And it doesn't have to be a huge change. I mean, we're talking maybe 5, 10% a change, and you're building on it. And the way that you build on it is with consistency. If you miss a workout, your body's going to start to decline again. I mean, we have to think about it in those terms because, especially with Parkinson's, if we don't do something, we decline to the point where we're now struggling even more. And this is the way I think about it because I'm still really early on in my diagnosis. I've only been diagnosed over a year now with symptoms since 2020. Um, if we are not actively working to resist the change, it's going to take over. And when it does, it becomes a lot more difficult. Now, I never say it's too late. It's never too late. As long as you got a heartbeat and lungs to breathe, you can do any form of exercise. And one of the most underrated exercises is walking. I think that people who have later stage Parkinson's who are really struggling with their diagnosis, maybe have a very hard, difficult time moving and can't even conceptualize weightlifting at all right now, they can start with doing what they can, even if they're walking with a walker. Start with something that you can do and that you can do confidently, and then build that confidence by either increasing weight, resistance, or time. That's it. Keep it simple.
Now, what I was going to ask you, doctor, too, is I'm in my 5th year since my diagnosis, and I'm still trying to figure out the whole balance of meds that work without, that fine line between freezing and shaking too much. But I got to tell you, I think with me, as other people, a huge thing with me is my diet, my gut health. Not that I eat bad, but is there something that you found that works as far as a certain diet you're on, and maybe the timing of medications with those things that you're eating?
Yes, and I think it's really important that you ask that question because a lot of times people think about exercise, they think about protein being the number one food or macromolecule to establish muscle gain. And while I will say that in my previous experience that you can do it either any sort of way, and the topic of diet often comes up, I say the diet that works best is the one that aligns with your goals and is the one that you adhere to. Because really, when it comes down to it, a lot of times people start a diet, it doesn't work fast enough for them, so they quit.
It's got to be
Um, so the question that I have to ask you, Tim, is what sort of goals do you have? Is it muscle gain, fat loss? Is it strictly performance based or resistance to progression of Parkinson's?
I'm going to be completely honest with you. My main goal is to get my pills to work right. It's not like I'm looking to get to the gym and be Lou Ferrigno. I mean, I'm going to do that, work out every day. But my thing right now is I just want to extend the amount of time that I'm on as opposed to off and
Got it.
maxing out those medications.
Well, as far as I know, the research is pretty strong for high intensity exercise.
Yeah.
So getting your heart rate up high is going to be most resistant to the progression of Parkinson's and give that best response. Now, diet wise, my experience has been that a healing diet, one in which blood sugar levels are not constantly raised and lowered or spiked.
Okay.
When we have glucose or insulin resistance, when we have glucose, high levels of glucose in the blood, that puts a stress on the body, increases inflammation to levels that is almost like a distraction. So when you're thinking about brain and activity and health, one of the things that I've noticed with my Parkinson's disease too, and what other people have told me, is your stress tolerance is very low. Like if you are in a stressed out, like for me, when I get in a stressed out situation, my body really starts to react. My symptoms go up, my
Big,
tremoring goes up,
big time.
and I get wiped out. Like, and it could be something really simple for most people to handle. Like, so I've noticed that when we deal with stress tolerance being so low, then it's really important that you keep things as consistent as possible with the diet. So, one of the things that I found to be really helpful and effective for me is intermittent fasting with an emphasis on avoiding added sugars because the sugar is going to cause a insulin spike and subsequently high glucose levels and ups and downs. We also experience that with the medication that we're taking, the carbidopa levodopa. I read an article and I passed this on to my movement specialist, and she agreed with me. She said, if we can minimize the amounts of spiking of the carbidopa levodopa or dopamine in our body, then we can effectively help the what the article said something about resisting or decreasing the incidences of dyskinesias. So,
Good.
the dyskinesia is probably the most difficult thing to deal with as someone with Parkinson's, because I mean, it really affects everything that you do. I mean, not to mention the freezing that you said too with the muscle tightness. But yeah, I believe that you can balance that better by minimizing spikes in glucose, spikes in dopamine.
As we wrap up today, I did want to also share. I have two last questions, then I'm going to throw it back to Tim. But I hope everyone will join you on Instagram at the Ultimate Pivot. We'll add this to the show notes, and I always say we got to get this up to 1 million followers, or Tim and I won't rest. So everyone can also reach out. I love all your stories, and they really are professional. They look like movies. I always say. Also, please support, again, our amazing guests. If you purchase the copy here of Sports, Exercise, and Slowing the Progression, we'll send it all to Andrew. And it's just was an honor again to work with this. So many important topics. Of course, yours was one of the really most fascinating. I did want to ask you two things. Number one, has the career of chiropractor kind of been tougher now with the diagnosis? And a more fun question after that is, who's your role model in the bodybuilding world? Is it Mr. Schwarzenegger?
That's a really good guess, actually. And there's a number of up and coming bodybuilders too that have been really influential. To answer your question though about chiropractic, has it become more challenging? Obviously, yes. Of course, it's going to be more challenging with my right side of my body not expressing the same level of intensity and movement ability, but I have been able to currently navigate that well enough to sustain and maintain the quality of my patient care. But I do recognize that there is a point in time in my future, possibly, and I'm going to resist this as much as I can, for as long as I can, that I may not be able to perform the duties of my career anymore. And when that time comes, I've been very open and with my business partners and trying to plan for something. So I created the Ultimate Pivot as sort of an answer to that, which is an advocacy for people who maybe in similar situations where their career needs to change, a career path needs to change. What else could we be doing with ourselves to provide for our family? Like I'm the sole provider for my family, so it's very impactful to me to know that I've got some other type of backup plan. And with the knowledge of the online space, with things like digital marketing, there's tons of ways to get information out there to people with Parkinson's or with disabilities. They can create an income for themselves online. And your book, or the book that we wrote together, was the start for me. And it doesn't have to stop there. It could be something that continues on and on. So yes, Schwarzenegger is definitely high up there. I got a lot of respect for him. Zane is another bodybuilder too that created a great physique. I'm very much about the physique rather than the build, because I never did. I had competed in two bodybuilding competitions, but they were both natural, drug tested. Actually, sorry, the second one was not drug tested, but I did not take any performance enhancing drugs still. Of course, I didn't perform as well as I did in the first one as a result, but that's kind of to be expected.
Now,
I
Doc,
did,
I'm sorry. I just wanted to ask you not to cut you off, but while you're speaking about chiropractic, can you
yes.
tell us briefly the other side of that coin, as far as not the fact that you are the chiropractor, but would you recommend chiropractic and its benefits to people with Parkinson's?
So yes, and absolutely. The answer to that, the short answer is yes. The long answer is depends on the case, what kind of expectations we can expect. Because one of the things I don't want a person with Parkinson's to feel like is that chiropractic is going to cure their
Right.
Parkinson's disease. But I do think it has a lot of power to mitigate some of the symptoms, like the dystonia, creating more of a balance within the body, to better movement patterns. So, and obviously pain relief too. I've had a lot of patients who've experienced pain relief with that. Have I worked directly with people with Parkinson's disease, or many people with that? No. But I am familiar with it, the other colleagues of mine that have done successful work with people with Parkinson's and other neurological diseases. So, the primary focus with chiropractic though is getting the body in balance and affecting the nervous system in the most positive way. Taking off the stress off the nervous system is the primary focus of chiropractic. There are some chiropractors that will adjust just for joint health. I think that's a part of the puzzle, but not the whole piece. And I've seen a lot of miraculous things happen for my clients, not those with Parkinson's, but just people with neurological issues, peripheral neuropathies too, have done really well with chiropractic care.
Right.
I really want to thank you, Andrew, for not only your time today, but your friendship.
Yeah, absolutely. My
always,
pleasure.
always texting each other all the time, and anytime I think of some breakthrough or somebody out there who might need inspiration, I always send them to you. And just grateful for, again, all the work you do, but excited for the future. I'm gonna might send it to Tim for his famous quote of the day, and then we'll wrap up. But really, again, honored to be able to advocate together. And I hope someday, I wish we don't play, but if I ever won the lottery, my dream was to put that sports book into every single chiropractic, physical therapy office in the country. So I'm still working on the winning the lottery part.
Well, listen, this has been an unbelievable podcast. I was so excited for it. It was filled with information. I think people are going to get a lot out of this podcast
Yes.
now because now I got his number. Now I'm going to call him with a million questions.
And actually, I was just going to wrap up with that too. If anyone's watching this or listening to this podcast episode and they have questions and would like to connect with me, please follow theultimatepivot.com or at the ultimate pivot. That's my Instagram and my TikTok links too. So I'm more than happy to answer questions, DMs. Please hit me up in the DMs. I'm here to help. That's what my main focus is. So happy to help.
So we always like to close the show with a inspirational quote, kind of from the genre that we're speaking about. So I found one of Arnold, and no, it's not "I'll be back," but it is. This is key. The mind is the limit. If you can envision it, you can do it.
That's right.
And I'll tell you what, it's finding your new normal. Like I say to people all the time, in the gym or in life, or with Parkinson's, doesn't mean you can't do anything. Just it's going to be a little different. It's going to look a little different. Doesn't mean you stop doing it.
Correct.
A problem. So I think that's key.
I agree, and I agree wholeheartedly with that comment as far as how it relates to Parkinson's disease too. So important. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you for being on with us.
Thanks, Doctor. And I always hate saying goodbye, so I always say to Tim to be continued. All I could say is Tim, I love you. And some of the work Tim's doing, if you go to my PD party, not just inspiring, but motivates me every day. He's actually been concentrating like we are now, but on getting that national plan to end Parkinson's to, after a year. Hopefully, I don't say that next year. It'll be 2 years. It'll come to life. I'll be heading back to DC, and Tim's thoughts and will be with me no matter if he's there with standing next to me. Although I'll never forget when we were advocating at the Capitol together. But it's really, I hate to say, a dire need that everyone listening. We're all family in this. We're community. You have some incredible advice today from the doctor. Feel free to reach out to him, as he mentioned. But we got so many things going on in the world: politics, life, health. But most important thing is everyone take care of yourself. And one way to do that is through sports and slowing the progression of Parkinson's disease. This has been another episode of All Star PD Sportscast with my incredible co-host Tim. You can find him again at my PD Party. You can find me. I'm Sharon Son George at togetherforsharon.com. But here we discuss the world of sports and slowing the progression of Parkinson's, and you can be sure the doctor, Tim, and myself will not rest literally until there is a cure at everybody's doorsteps around the world. Thanks, everyone. We love you. We'll see you soon.
Love you. Thank you so
Love you
much.
too, guys. Thank you so much.
Take care.